Hey you guys, welcome back to the video. So today we are going to be talking about a very sensitive subject, and I do want to issue a trigger warning for the entire video. As you can see by the title, I have never talked about this on here. I've touched on it on TikTok very little. I think I did 1 or 2 videos, but I wanted to bring awareness to it because October is a month of domestic violence awareness, and so I wanted to share my story and tips that may be able to help somebody, inspire somebody to get out, or to encourage or alert authorities or the proper people to help somebody get out. This started when I was 16 years old. We lived in Virginia, and those that know me, my Virginia friends, y'all know who the person was. I don't know where this person is at now, and I wouldn't care if they saw this video or whatever. And so this started when I was 16. I think I was a junior. No, I was a sophomore in high school. I lived in Prince George, Virginia, and I went to Prince George High School. And I was a new girl because those that know, I'm a military brat. And so we had came back from living with my dad, and we were living with my mom on Fort Lee, and on the military base on Fort Lee. And I was a new girl, and so, you know, being the new girl, you know, I had long hair. My hair was even longer than this. Like, y'all, this is not a sew-in or nothing or a weave. A lot of people always ask me that on social media. Like, they'll DM me and be like, where'd you get your hair from my scalp? But thank y'all. But y'all, trying to like grow my edges back because they just never recovered after I gave birth, and that's just a whole thing. But on another note, my hair is very long, but it used to be longer than this. Like, it was almost like it was past the middle of my back, like inching towards my butt. And I was young, I was really pretty, and so I was a mixed girl, so like a lot of the guys were interested. And so this one guy in particular, he was a twin, and I had heard like not so great. I hadn't heard many bad things, but the some things I did hear weren't that great. And so for me, I've always been the type of person, like, if I don't know you, like, people can say bad things about me. You know, people say bad things about people from like 20, 30 years ago, 5 years ago, because who you were 5 years ago isn't who you are now. So I'm like, okay, that's your experience with the person, but like they may be different with me. Red flag number 1 on my behalf. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like get to know the person for myself. Like, it was a girl, one of the main girls that was just had horrible things to say. And I'm like, oh, you probably like want him. In the back of my head, I'm like, oh, you're just trying to, like, you know, that high school catty mentality of like, oh, you just don't want him to be with me because, like, you know, you want him or whatever. So I proceeded, and like they were very persistent about getting to know me. They were interested. They were telling my friends, like, you know, they wanted me. So we started talking, and then we started dating or whatever, and became exclusive. And so it was the first red flag on my part, that I did not listen to what these women had said. But I had never heard anything about like abuse or whatever. Just like that they were kind of like a player, they were a cheater, this, that, and the third. They kind of, you know, might get angry, but never anything like that was a red flag to me at the time. So we are dating, and everything's going well. I'm being treated nice. You know, the thing back then in Colonial Heights, like in high school, like we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings after the football games, and like go to South Park Mall. And this is to let y'all know that like this story is very real. You can look it up. Colonial Heights, Virginia, the South Park Mall, the Buffalo Wild Wings was across the street. I think it's still there. Last time I went up there a year ago. And so we're there, and I remember we get in the car, we're leaving, and I had, my first car was a gold Toyota Camry. And I remember like one of my friends was there, and he lived around the corner from me, and like I had friends previous to me dating this guy, guys and girls. And one of my friends, he lived around the corner from me, and so he was like, hey Jess, like I'll see you at home or whatever, because like literally from my house I could see his house. And I was like, okay, like I'll see you in a little bit or whatever. And when I got in the car, the guy that I was with, my boyfriend, was in the passenger seat, and he was like, who the fuck is that? And I was like, that's so-and-so, you know, it's my neighbor or whatever. He lives like, you know, a few houses down. Like, I can see his house from mine. We walk home together from the bus. Like, we talk at school. You've never seen me talk to him. And he was like, I have, and I'm just always wondering what's up with that. And he's talking about he gonna see you at home. So I was kind of like taken aback, and I was kind of like, okay. So I was like, you know, is it a problem? And he was like, you know, nah, but I'm gonna just be watching. So I'm like, okay. Second red flag that I didn't pay attention to already. And this was like a month or two into dating. So I just thought, you know, that's kind of weird, but I've never had any boyfriends that have been like possessive. So I just kind of didn't know what to do with that. Because I didn't think it was healthy, but I didn't think it was a red flag either, if that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And you know, it was innocent, like that guy was my friend. So one day, like, we're in the hallway and me and my friend hugged, and he was like, hey, I'm not gonna be riding the bus home, so like I'll see you later. I'll come out of the house. Meanwhile, like, my mom knew this guy because he would come over to the house. If anybody knows me, my baby Bella, that was our dog, that I had her for 11 years before she passed away in 2020. We got her when she was literally like 6 weeks old from PetSmart, and there's a PetSmart in Colonial Heights not far from the mall. That's where we saw her. She had a twin brother, and I picked her, you know, we got her when she was 6 weeks old, and I had her until she was 11 and passed in 2020. So like, he would come, all my friends knew. Bella would be like outside. We would put the leash on the door to like let her, she loved to get sun, and like she would be on the doorstep waiting for me when I got off the bus. Everybody knew Bella, right? So my friends would be at the house playing with her, and we're hanging out. And so he's like, I'm gonna come by the house later and hang out and see Bella. And I'm like, you know, okay. And my boyfriend overheard, and on the way home from school, I would take him sometimes home in my car, because mind you, he was 18 years old and I have a car. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying at that, like back then, most people had a car. So I'm like, okay. And so meanwhile, I told you that he's a twin, and so his twin brother was like super sweet, like just the complete opposite, right? So when we get in the car after school and we're on the way to his house, he's like, what the f is up with so-and-so saying they're gonna come by the house? And I was like, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna do some homework, because he was also in one of my classes as well. So we're gonna do some homework, he's gonna like hang out, play with Bella, and all of a sudden he just slapped me. And I'm like, oh, like across my face, open hand. And I'm like, oh shoot, okay. So at that point I'm crying, and so I'm just like, I'm gonna go back on post, because that's where I lived. He lived off post. He was not a military person or child. And I'm like, I'm just gonna go on base. Like, I want you to get out my car. So we pull over, and on Fort Lee, I don't know if it's still there, but when you came through the main gate, there was a gas station and a Popeyes. And the Popeyes was new, and I remember like just like crying, and I just pulled over and I was like, just get out, you can go out the gate and like have somebody come pick you up. And he just slapped me again. And I was like, oh. So at that moment in my head, I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, this guy is like genuinely just my friend. Like, there was no type of attraction there, like anything. We were platonic friends, and like, you're slapping me like open hand, and you're a like 18-year-old man slapping a 16-year-old girl. And I remember just like my right side of my face feeling so numb. And so I just didn't know what to do. So in that moment, I'm like, I can't tell my mom, because my mom is like kind of crazy, and she might like order like a hit out on this guy, or like try to hurt him herself. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed, because I've never seen that growing up. I never saw physical abuse in any of my family on either side. I never saw those type of relationships. I didn't see much like TV shows with that. So I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And I'm 16. My dad's not living with us, and like, do I tell my dad? And I'm just like, I didn't know what to do. So I just was like, I'm sorry, okay, like. And he's like, I don't ever want you to see him again. I don't ever want you to talk to him again. Like, you're not seeing him, you're not talking to him, nothing. You're not gonna be friends, or it's gonna get worse. And so I was just like, I'm so sorry, okay, like, I'm sorry, I won't ever talk to him. Like, I do want to have a conversation with him just to, like, let him know, like, why we can't be friends. So he was like, that's fine, but that's it. If I see you talking to him after the night, you know what's up. So when I got home, I went to his house and I, you know, had a conversation with him, and he was just like, what? And he was like, you want me to fight him for you, X, Y, and Z? Like, what the heck? Like, he didn't put his hands on you, da, da. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get worse, like, you know, da da da. And so he kind of understood, but at the same time, I don't think had ever experienced that, so he just didn't know what to do. And so we just were like, we'll remain friends, like, on the down low. That's it, you know. But like, in front of him, we can't talk, we can't be friends, nothing. So it just continued to just get worse and worse and worse and worse. And I had plenty of guy friends, and so anytime like anyone of them would speak to me, talk to me in the hallways, like, I just would just immediately, at that point, he was always wanting to be around me at school. Like, he had to be everywhere I was at. And so I would just like immediately like look down, and I'd be like hi. Like, if somebody said hi, that was a guy, I'd just kind of be like, and they would be looking like, what the heck is wrong with you? And I'm just looking like, he's right here, like, don't, you know, say anything. Because then, like, even if I would, then he would be like, so who was that? Da 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 da. Like, what you talking to him? Like, it just got so volatile so quick. So one day I was on the track team, and I didn't know that he was at the practice. And so some of the guys and I, like the girls, we were all hanging out, talking, laughing. And when I was leaving, one of my guy friends gave me a hug. And so he had texted me and was like, oh, like, meet me at my house or whatever so we can hang out. And when I got to his house and got through the door, he was like, what the fuck is this? And like showed me a picture on his phone of me and the guy hugging. Although that was legit my homeboy and I was saying bye, he had took a picture and just straight up punch me in my face. At this point, I'm bleeding, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm just crying, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you hitting me? And it just continued to escalate from there. I never told my mom. I never told anybody in my family. My mom hated this person, and she suspected it, I believe, because she would be like, is everything okay? Like, he never left bruises on like my face. He would leave them like on my legs or my back so people wouldn't see. But he never left like black eyes or anything like that. There was once where like my eye was a little bit swollen, and I put like a little bit of makeup, and I think I told my mom like Bella had hit me or something or scratched me. So she didn't 100% believe me, but she couldn't tell I was lying either, because I never told her. I never had proof. So the punching just continued, and then it escalated into, you're gonna come over here and you're gonna have sex with me when I want, and I'm gonna do what I want. And when I would say no, there would be beatings. And so that was a whole thing. So it turned into sexual abuse as well. And so it just continued to escalate, and I was just like asking God, like, God, just take me, just bring me up there with you. Like, I've never experienced this. Like, I can't talk to my family. I became isolated from my mom and my sister to where I was like super close to, I was unhappy. So hurt people. So I was just completely rude and like neglectful of my mom and my sister, to where that damaged me and my sister's relationship for a very long time, because she was like, I treated her not nicely. And as far as like not nice, I never was like verbally abusive to her or anything, but like we always hung out. And so at that point, I always had to be with him, because if not, it would result in a beating. And then he would threaten me and say like, oh, at some point in the relationship, he got a car. So then he would threaten me and say like, well, I'm gonna come on base. And like, he would legit, one night I was like, I'm done, like, I'm breaking up, I'm leaving you. And he was like, oh yeah, really? Okay. And like 30 minutes later, he called and was like, look out the window. And he's there like driving by, and Bella's on the front step on her leash getting some sun. And my mom and my sister and I were in the living room, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill your whole family, X, Y, and Z, you ain't going nowhere. He was like, I'm gonna wait. So he parked across the street and was like, if you leave me, when your family leaves, I'm gonna kill them. So I'm like, obviously, I don't want you to kill my family, like, hello. Like, so I stayed. And so one night I remember like that one of my friends like had tried to talk to me, and he was like, hey, you need to leave him, like, you know, this is gonna end bad, X, Y, and Z. And so apparently he had his other friends and his twin brother spying on me. So I knew that he was out of school that day. So I was like, okay, my friend and I were talking, and he was like, I can get some guy, like we can jump him, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I don't want that, like I don't want any problems, like, but you know, I just don't know what to do. And he's like, you need to leave him. And so apparently somebody had sent a video of my friend and I talking to my boyfriend, and when I got to his house, he took a gun and he pistol whipped me, and I got beat up really, really bad. So I had bruises all on my back, on my legs, and I was like completely broken. And that night I remember just like sitting on the floor like, God, just take my life. Like, I want to get in a car accident and not be here. Like, God, like just take me, I thought about suicide, because I'm like, how do you come back from this? How do I tell my family? I'm embarrassed because the women in my family were very strong, and we were always taught like somebody puts your hands on you, you hit them back or you fight back, and I was the weak one in my mind, to stay with somebody that continually verbally, emotionally, sexually, and physically abused me. And I just was like, I don't know how I can ever come back from this, how I can heal from this. And so I just saw no way out. And so in the middle of the summer of 2011, my mom got a contracting job overseas. And I'm thinking at this point of ways to unalive myself. And my mom's like, I'm going overseas to, I think it was Iraq or Qatar, and I got a contracting job, and you have to move back with your dad. And I'm like, okay. At this point, I've got a speeding ticket, and I'm in like a legal battle to save myself from going to juvenile, because I was going 90 miles per hour in a 70 or 75. And I'm just like, God, like, so I went to jail for 2 days for reckless driving, but it's expunged on my record. It's sealed, so I don't have to report it or anything. And the whole time they sentenced me to 2 days in juvie. And so I asked my mom, because my boyfriend was like, you're not leaving, you need to convince your mom to stay here, da da da. And I tried to convince my mom, and at this point he was like, you better get a bus ticket and run away and catch the bus back up here. So I'm like, don't know what to do. And I'm like, God, this is like your sign to help me, like help me get away from him. And so, mind you, his twin brother, the entire time, he would see me get beat up and things like that, but I will credit him and say that his twin brother would always try and step in and be like, stop, don't do this, and da 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 da, but it just didn't help. And his twin brother, I remember one day, his brother, my boyfriend, went to the store, and it was just him and I on the front porch, and he was like, this is your chance to get away. Do whatever you can to get away from my brother, because he's gonna kill you. And I remember just saying like, I don't know, like, I don't know, I'm scared, like help me. And he was like, you know, my brother, is nothing I can do. And I remember saying like, help me devise a plan. And so me and him are working on a plan. And then I remember that night I told God, like, I need your help. I don't think, if it's not for you, I'm going to die. And so I remember we went to court like 2 or 3 times, and the last time I got sentenced to 2 days in juvie/jail. And the whole time in jail, 1, I'm terrified that I'm going to jail. 2, I don't know what to expect, because I've seen the horror stories about jail. And 3, I'm thinking, I don't have a way to call my boyfriend. I should be concerned about so many other things. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, so-and-so, he's gonna beat me up when I get out of here, because I haven't called him. Like, I haven't checked in. Like, he's gonna like really hurt me. Like, he's gonna break something on me. And so I go through the 2 days in jail, and immediately after getting out, because my mom, it had affected my mom going overseas to her job. So she was like, as soon as you get out, literally, like, you have maybe 30 minutes to say your goodbyes to all your friends that you haven't said goodbye to, and then I have to drive you down to your dad's, in which my dad was in Alabama. So I literally just told him when I got out, I called, I said, hey, I don't have time, we have to go. I just got out, I got a shower, wash my hair, and we got to get down to my dad's. I don't have a choice, I'm sorry, but like, goodbye. And I never saw him again. And so I say all that to say, years later, I told my mom, my dad, I don't know if some of my family knows, but I am still healing. And that was when I was 16, and I am now 29 years. Well, I'll be 29 this year, so over 10 years later. It affects everything that you do. When I got in relationships afterwards, I was only in 2, my previous ex and then now my wife. Still now, like, even when Olivia and I got together one time, we were like wrestling and we were roughhousing, and she like went to make some kind of move, and I like immediately flinched and bust out into tears, and she was like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong? And I was like, I just thought you were gonna hit me. And she was like, what the world? And like X, Y, and Z. So I had to open up to her about that when we were dating. There's certain things like, don't pull my hair if somebody is coming up onto me. Like, it's mostly men, but women too, but like if a man comes up too close to me too quickly, or like it's not happened in a while, but like I remember one time years ago, like I was at the grocery store and some man like made a move, but like I thought he was about to do something to me, but like he was doing something like in the aisle, but it just completely frightened me. It has just changed my life in so many ways. And I want to say that all of my friends that knew, we've had conversation about like why they didn't tell anybody. We were so young, like we were 16, 17, 18 years old, like my friends and I, that was the age ranges. Like they didn't know what to do. And some of them I had asked, like, don't say anything, like he's gonna kill me. Like they knew like all they could do is like just be there when I cried, be there when they would hold me. And we've had those conversations, and there was no forgiveness because it was all understanding. And to those of you that were there, I love you so much. I thank you so much. I am still friends with almost all of them, and we talk all the time, and I am so grateful for you, and I love you so much. One of my closest friends at that time was also going through something, and you know who you are. And we trauma bonded, but I think became sisters for life because we knew what each other was going through. And she lived around the corner from me, and she has went on to flourish and find somebody better and have a beautiful family, as well as myself. But there will always be so much love there, because when I felt so alone, she was there, because she knew we would hold each other and we would tell each other it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this. It was by the grace of God that I did not get pregnant, because I was sexually active at the time, and there were a lot of times it was not against. Once the abuse started, it was not of my will, let me say that. And I thank God. But I love her so much, and I always will, and you know who you are. If you're watching this, you are so strong. You are such a light in my life. We still talk. We send love to each other. We cheer each other on, because when I see her family now, I know where she's come from, and we are genuinely happy for one another. I love you so much. I want you to know that. My other friends that were there, again, I love you so much. Thank you for being there at the lowest point in my life. And I thank my wife for always being so loving and understanding when she has never experienced that herself. She was always so careful with me. She was so loving with me. She was so understanding. Even now when we watch things that have abuse scenes in it or domestic violence scenes, she will always look at me and she'll ask me, are you okay? Do we need to change the channel? She's just so understanding and so loving. And there are things that people cannot do to me that will just forever be a result of suffering domestic violence. But I do want to encourage any and everybody that we are in a different time, that was over 10 years ago, to report it, to say something to somebody. And I understand when somebody is leaving their abuser, it is the most dangerous time. And so if you can provide solace or a place, food, money, it is very hard for people to leave a domestic violence situation, especially when they have children. I think it is absolutely ridiculous when people say, I used to be one of those people that used to say, oh, somebody hits me, I'm gonna punch them back. What? Oh, I ain't weak. You know, how you gonna stay with somebody that hit you? I was one of those people that thought it. And you never know what you're gonna do until you are in that situation. There are so many people being abused physically, you have no idea. And on top of just like physical abuse, sexual abuse, where you don't want to be intimate with your partner, but you have no choice. Belittled emotionally, it breaks your spirit down. I am still building my confidence back up. My self-love journey has been very hard over the past 12 years, because you are just broken down to nothing. And I had a thin body back then. I was very thin, I was very pretty. But when you're told you're all these names in the book, you're nothing, this and a third, nobody's gonna want you, you're just this and that, you're just broken down every single day, physically, emotionally. You just become numb. And I want to encourage my women out there that may be going through this, that if there are red flags early in the relationship, leave. It will not get better. And I know as women sometimes, like, we think, oh, like it'll get better, oh, like, and the person loves to gaslight you, and then they'll turn around. And every time in the beginning I would get hit or punched, and then I got flowers or dinner or money. And so it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Hyde of like, I'm gonna abuse you and then I'm gonna turn around and do something really nice. It will never get better. Most situations end in death. I had a friend, she was one of my friends in Virginia, and she was murdered by her boyfriend. Little did we know when she moved to New York that she was suffering through domestic violence and her partner was abusive. And when she decided to leave, he took her life. Aaron, I love you and I miss your bright spirit. You were a gem on earth. And it's just heartbreaking. And so I just want people to understand domestic violence is very real. I normally can spot an abuser a mile away. When people talk to their spouse or their partner a certain way, I instantly, Liv will know. Like, I will be like, what the hell? No. There are men around me that if I hear them speak to their partner a certain way, you will not be around me. No, absolutely not. It starts with most of the time verbal, and when they see that they can get away with it, they continue and continue and continue. It never gets better. So if you have somebody going through it, talk to them. If you notice signs about like their partner isolating them, always having to be there during a conversation, monitoring conversations on the phone or FaceTime, looking through emails, looking through text messages and all of that, or bruises coming up quite often, say something, because somebody's life matters. So I just wanted to share that. It was on my heart. I wanted to share last year, but I just wasn't ready. But this could help somebody, and I don't want it to happen to any other person of any age or gender. And know that when you think about domestic violence, you think about it being from a man to a woman, but it happens it does not discriminate against race or gender. I've seen it happen on women, on men. I've seen it happen in lesbian relationships, gay relationships, trans relationships. It does not discriminate, and it can be very deadly. And when you have children involved, people get upset. And I have known family members and friends that when they left, their partner killed them and their children. It just gets bad. So report it, say something, help somebody, share this video if you know somebody going through this or you see signs of it, and just know that it will never get better and to leave that person. I love you so much, and thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment this video. And again, I love you so much. Thank you for all your continued support, and I hope you have a great Monday.